Good morning. At this time, we'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners meeting for Thursday, December 7. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer?
Here.
Commissioner Allen?
Here.
Commissioner Klicka?
Here.
Commissioner Osterhaus? Here. Commissioner Ashcraft?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
And Chairman Eilert.
Here. All are present. We do have a quorum. Before I ask everyone to join in the Pledge of Allegiance, I think it's appropriate today to remember what happened at Pearl Harbor decades ago. And today was the day, December 7th. And so as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance, let's think about what happened and the sacrifices that occurred as a result of that action. Would you join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. If those who are present have a noise-making device, cell phone, iPhone, whatever you want to call it, would ask that you turn it to silent mode so as not to interfere with our electronic communications. We do not have any special presentations to make this morning, so we'll turn to the public comment portion of our agenda. This portion of our agenda, if you want to address the Commission on an item which does not later appear on our agenda, would ask you to come to the podium, state your name and address, and we'll be glad to receive that information. And the comment period individually is limited to 5 minutes. Obviously, there will be, I think, several people who will be interested in commenting, so I would ask that you be concise and to the point. If you go over 5 minutes, I will have to ask you to conclude your remarks. So, the public comment portion is now open. Yes.
Tom Raby, 17513 West 113th Street, Olathe. And you're right, it was 76 years ago today that Pearl Harbor was bombed, and it caught us with our pants down more than literally, in that the great gurus of the radio media and the press media in New York and Washington couldn't even pronounce the island of Oahu. They boogered it up big time. And it might even be on YouTube if you want to look for it. But I want to take a little bit of license this morning. I won't take 5 minutes, so bear with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Someone else.
Good morning. My name is Tiffany Wallen, and I currently live in Overland Park, and I actually work for Johnson County government in the health department, and I have been asked to read the following letter, which represents the views of over 800 employees of this Johnson County government. So if you'll allow me to do that, please.
Go right ahead, yes.
We write to the voters as employees of Johnson County government to share that we are shocked and utterly discouraged by the decisions of Michael Ashcraft, Steve Klicka, Mike Brown, and Jason Osterhaus to end the tenure of our county manager, Hannes Zacharias. Unable to find fault with any aspect of his performance, they cite the need for a change in vision. For our part, Hannes' vision for county government is one of fairness, safety, good stewardship, progress, communication, and participation. He has inspired and motivated us by celebrating our diversity. He has made us feel respected, valued, and regarding those of us who are female, he has made us feel safe with his principled leadership and unfailing professional conduct, a trait that appears to be in short supply in many organizations and governmental structures these days. Why does this board want to change that vision? For many of us, Hannes introduced the idea of parallel structure, in which the ideas of the frontline employee are just as important as those of the CMO, and he led the way and required others to do the same. Recently, Hannes championed an initiative to convene a group of county employees of diverse professional and personal backgrounds to open a dialogue about race, gender, and broader themes of equity as pertains to our community and the county government's role in it. He believes that regardless of social identity, every citizen of Johnson County should be safe, welcome, and respectful. He believes every public servant in Johnson County should be safe, respected, heard, and valued. Why does the board want to change that vision? Hannes is the type of leader needed to embrace locally and nationally in these diverse times and uncertain times. His leadership was comforting to us, and we are all deeply shaken that we will have to continue without him. We would like to ask the voters of Johnson County, consider us when making their choices at the voting booth, and especially when they choose not to choose. We are here in our offices wanting to make sure babies don't die in unsafe daycares, keeping diarrhea out of your public swimming pools, warning you when your dog could die from drinking out of Indian Creek, making sure that children are not coming to school with empty bellies, keeping teens from sleeping on streets, literally preventing raw sewage from running down Metcalf, providing a venue for your marriages and adoptions, free mediation for your divorces, counseling for your kids, home visits for your elderly parents, safety in your community, and security in your jail. It was Hannes' vision to continue those things, and he did them while reducing costs by $47 million. What do Ashcraft, Klitka, Brown, and Osterhaus really want to change? Thank you.
Thank you.
It's hard to improve upon that. Mike Booth, 8925 West 100th Terrace, Overland Park. I'm also a Johnson County employee, also with the Department of Health and Environment. I took vacation time to be here, so I'm not on work time, the taxpayers' money. I'm exercising my right as a taxpayer in Johnson County to comment today, but it is also impossible to ignore that I am an employee of the county. So my comments will reflect both. I have worked for Johnson County for almost 30 years. Like everyone else, I was stunned when we received notice that the board had voted not to renew Mr. Zacharias' contract, essentially firing him. This is the first time I've heard of anyone who was fired for being very good at their job. I've read every news account I can find about this online, and also the comments that appear under the end of the stories. So far, I've only seen 2 comments that agree with the firing. I have yet to hear one employee say they agreed with it. There probably are some that agree with it. I've not talked to any of them, and I've talked to numerous ones in last week. The 4 commissioners who voted to fire him said it was not because of any problems with Mr. Zacharias, thought he had done a good job, but they believe it's time for a change after 8 years and time to take a different direction. I do not understand that reasoning. The county has a national reputation as a very well-managed county, one of the best in the country of over 3,000 counties. I've read in the paper a couple of negative comments from 2 people that the mill levy was too high. Compared to whom? We have the lowest mill rate levy in the entire state of Kansas, the lowest. And that rate was lowered just a year ago. I compare our taxes with those of my family and in and around Des Moines, where I'm originally from. My brother lives in a smaller house than I do, just outside of Des Moines. And his value of his house is about 2/3 of what mine is. His taxes are 50% higher than mine are. And if you think we have high taxes, move to Polk County and Des Moines area, and you'll see what high taxes are like. I don't see him here in Johnson County. Mr. Zacharias has been recognized nationally for what he has done and commended for the work he does here. The county couldn't be in better hands. We're among the best managed in the country, or at least, if we're not at the top, we're at least near the top. But I'd like to point out to the commissioners that when you are near or on the top, there's only one direction that you can go, and that's down. So why are we changing just for the sake of change? I believe Hannes to be an excellent leader, an asset to the taxpayers of Johnson County, as well as a role model for county employees. What many outside the county may not know is how he has guided employees through the LEAP training, which stands for Leadership Empowers All People. All of us go through this. And it's to encourage all employees to take a leadership role, big or small, in their jobs every day. And I've been here for nearly 30 years, as I said, and I've seen 5 or 6 different management employee-type programs. None of them took. They cost a lot of money, and they were forgotten pretty much as soon as everybody left the training. LEAP seems to be different, even with me, and I'm one of the most cynical people you'll ever know. Through LEAP, employees are challenged and encouraged to speak up, to take a leading role in how the county operates, to help to improve what the county does for the taxpayers. If an employee has an idea on how the county can do something better, they can present that idea to Mr. Zacharias and others. One such program is the highly successful Citizens Academy. Other employees work within their own departments to improve their operations and services to the county taxpayers, as well with new ideas, new methods. But employees are constantly trying to improve what we do and how we do it. It's a constant, ongoing thing. We are always thinking of how to do things better. It was not that way many years ago when I started. And all of this is due to the leadership of Mr. Zacharias. The fact that many employees have chosen to voice their disagreement with decision with the board this last week, who signed the petition, wrote letters, contacted their friends and neighbors, and came to this meeting today, this is a testament to what the leadership of Mr. Zacharias. And some of us believe this could put us at risk for our jobs. We're still here. When was the last time that anybody heard government employees raising questions about why their boss was fired? I've never seen it anywhere. I'm a news junkie, I'm a political news junkie, and I've never seen it or heard of it. Not until now. Board Chairman Ed Eilert was very disturbed by it last week. It was plainly obvious during the vote. Thought it was a wrong decision. I and a lot of others agree. I sincerely hope that at least one of the 4 commissioners will reverse their decision and will follow the lead of Commissioner Allen's eloquent statement last week and modify it, and this time vote yes and hell yes to restore the contract of Mr. Zacharias. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Mr. Penhouse.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Joella Hoy. I live at 8517 Alden Lane in Lenexa. First, I would like to thank Chairman Eilert for his comments that the decision to terminate the contract of the county manager was inappropriate. Commissioner Allen, I shared your contempt, your visible contempt for the decision, and Commissioner Schaefer, I viewed your vote as a support for professionalism and leadership, so thank you. As for the commissioners who voted with the majority on this action, a decision that has obviously demoralized employees and shocked fellow community leaders, well, you have my attention. The county manager serves at the pleasure of the board. Contract renewal comes with that territory, such is the nature of the job. The county manager starts each year clarifying what his directives from the board are, and he develops goals and objectives to achieve the board's priorities. Which of these directives did the county manager fail to achieve? Why was the urgent firing of the county manager necessary to achieve the board's new vision or direction? It does not appear that the commissioners who voted to terminate the contract have a cohesive reason for doing so. It seems like the reasons were policy choices the commissioners were not able to convince the majority of their colleagues to support. This action created an unnecessary political scene and was below the standard of excellence that I expect from Johnson County government officials. These are the antics that are dismantling our state government, hurting our federal government, and dividing our people, and I will not sit on the sidelines and let them infiltrate at our local government level. Johnson County is successful in large part because it is a nonpartisan board manager charter county. We must move on from this turmoil and hold the democratic process and our professional and fiscally responsible government as priorities and not let our emotions distract us from what may really be going on here. The board must be nimble, as Commissioner Klicka said, as well as transparent in communicating the next steps for the county and informing citizens what parts of the vision have changed. It's imperative that you engage citizen participation to assure that your new vision meets the approval of your constituents. Thank you for your time, Commissioners.
Thank you.
My name is Elizabeth George, and I live at 10504 Bond Street, under Jason Osterhaus. And Jason, I want to thank you because I go to our home association meetings, and I know you make an effort to attend, and I appreciate your involvement at that level of your community. I have been a 28-year county employee and a 28-year resident of Johnson County, and I'm speaking kind of in both roles. I've also earlier worked for another county, Shawnee County, during a difficult economic time for them when they needed to build a jail and funds weren't available. And as I've seen counties struggle both through good times and bad times, I've been very impressed by the leadership of Hannes Zachariah. And I'm asking particularly you, Jason, since you're my representative, but to all of the county commissioners who voted to not renew Hannes Zachariah's contract, to either decide to reconsider that decision or to create a new contract for his employment. Because I work in mental health, I know it's really difficult and not human nature to revisit a decision once made. Oftentimes we think we'll look foolish and indecisive if we relook at our actions. However, I believe that most of the people in this room, the majority for sure, believe that this is an opportunity for you to be a hero for Johnson County and to show you have maturity and flexibility as a leader and can more adequately represent the county by revisiting that decision. I also think we could all go home. I know that, especially the mental health center, I think was hit very much by the recession. And we've also had some excellent times while I have been an employee. And I have seen Hannes be a light in both those dark and light times. One particular time that I was not proud of was when I was not feeling supported by the executive leadership at the time at Johnson County Mental Health, nor by our governing board. And so while I tend to kind of focus my circle of influence on things closest to me, that was a time when I became more political and I tuned into some of the videotaped county commission meetings. And there was one meeting in particular where our governing board was obviously what we call in mental health emotionally dysregulated, and some of the county commissioners were too. And there was a lot of argument on kind of the direction of the mental health center at the time. And I don't even know if the commissioner that was in that meeting that made this statement is still here today, but someone brought up that perhaps the mental health center employees shouldn't have a raise because we weren't doing well fiscally at that time. And, you know, I can say that I probably always get over a 40-hour work week as an exempt employee with Johnson County Mental Health. But during those difficult times, I was averaging 50-plus hours. So I took it for what I saw it as, which was that people were upset and not speaking from a place of rationality. But you know who the vision was in that meeting? The person who spoke up and said that's misdirected thinking? That was Zachariah. I appreciate someone who can challenge thinkers. And I think that if you're threatened by that in any way, shape, or form, again, this is an opportunity to step up and become a better leader and revisit that decision and welcome dissent or whatever the problem is and reconsider that decision. Lastly, I've heard that there's been some talk that LEAP isn't a valuable program. LEAP is just a program, but in the hands of Hannes, it's been a valuable tool. And I know that there are people in administration of mental health that could stand up and talk about how, by implementing those principles under the leadership of our current county manager, we've saved thousands and thousands of dollars. I personally got to hear Hannes tell his story about why he got into public service, and that's an inspiration to me, and in my worst days, it's a reason why I'm able to rise above emotions and continue to serve to the best of my ability. So, again, we could all go home. Please reconsider your decision or offer him a new contract. Thank you.
My name is Joe Young. I live at 5405 West 79th Street in Prairie Village. I've been a resident of Johnson County for over 30 years. I picked Johnson County because of something that Hannes focused on during his tenure, which is quality of life. I read that we want to move the county in a more fiscally conservative direction, but I can honestly tell you I've not seen any place that's more fiscally conservative. As a county employee, I've been a part of trying to get programs pushed through to the board, and we had to dot every I and cross every T before it ever got to Hannes's desk, and even then, it wasn't easy. So there's fiscal conservative, and it's proven by our reserves, it's proven by the money that Hannes has saved us. Part of quality of life, I'm an avid bicyclist. I've ridden over 1,000 miles on the bicycle trails in Johnson County. I've also ridden on them in Missouri, and I can tell you that Johnson County has far better trails. I've golfed on the county golf courses. I've driven on countless roads, and I can't tell you how many times I've passed a sign that said CARS, County Assistance, to help build those roads. We have it all here, but we take it for granted. The real reason I'm here, though, is because in 2009, as an employee of Johnson County, we were in a recession. No Johnson County employee was laid off. Hannes promised us that. He said it was a last resort. He held to it. We've cut staff. My department still feels those cuts to this day. But because of his actions, the workforce that he has doubled down to do more with less and take Johnson County to where it is. I heard talk of transparency, and what's not transparent to the employees of Johnson County is what happens to us when the economy turns down again. Because are we going to be viewed as the first thing to go? Hannes didn't do that. Hannes recognized the value of the employee, that we were the county, and that we were what made things happen. He led with passion, but he led with compassion, and that's rare in any government entity. I beg you to reconsider your vote, because Mr. Zacharias is not only a great county manager, he is a fantastic human being. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Patty Logan, a steering committee member of Stand Up Blue Valley Families for Our Schools. I live at 3910 West 143rd Street in Leawood. I am making a statement on behalf of our group. Stand Up Blue Valley is a group of parents and patrons who are concerned about the impact of legislation and outside influences on our public schools. People and businesses move to Johnson County for the quality of life and for the award-winning schools. Quality communities support quality public schools and vice versa. Stand Up Blue Valley members, and there are thousands of us, have come together to vote for moderate, pro-public education, pro-community elected officials, because that is who we want representing our community. We are not surprised that the 2015 Johnson County Community Survey reported that over 30% of respondents think Johnson County is a good place to live and raise children, but over 60% thought it is an excellent place to do so. We have spent the last week fielding questions from our members, asking questions ourselves, and learning more about the role of the Johnson County Manager and Commission. We have not heard any concerns whatsoever about the direction of Johnson County from our members, business owners, county employees, fellow moderates, and public education advocates. On the contrary, we have heard from a wide range of people who are angry and disappointed in last week's vote, and from people who praise Mr. Zacharias' work in Johnson County. We asked Mr. Klicka, Mr. Osterhaus, Mr. Ashcraft, and Mr. Brown exactly which residents of Districts 3, 4, 5, and 6 they are claiming to represent with their votes to remove Mr. Zacharias. We especially take issue with the vote by Mr. Klicka, who was endorsed in 2016 by Stand Up Blue Valley after he claimed to be a fellow moderate. As we have discussed with Mr. Klicka personally, we urge him to reconsider this decision. We find laughable Mr. Klicka's assertion that he did not allow politics to enter into his decision. And we remind him and the other 3 who voted to terminate Mr. Zacharias' contract that things have changed in Johnson County. You may put your political ambitions and career or a handful of anti-tax voices ahead of your district now, but be reminded that voters are more engaged and informed than ever before. We will not tolerate elected representatives who do not actually represent us. We will stand in unison against partisanship and extremism. And we will remember your votes the next time we have the opportunity to cast ours. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Paul Rapp. I live at 221 West Washington, Gardner, Kansas. I've just retired in September from Johnson County, 22 years, 34 years in public service, 31 years in Killeen as a volunteer in Johnson County. I don't know what to say. I don't know, I look at the flag, there's 13 stripes, 50 stars. The 13 stripes represent 13 colonies who only agreed on one thing, independence. The 50 stars represent the 50 United States. And sometimes we can't even agree where our boundaries are at. To make a decision based on just politics, and let me define the word. I spent too many years in school. My great ambition when I got to kindergarten was to turn 16 so I could quit. I went 9 years after graduating from high school and still go back, and thanks to LEAP I've learned new materials to do construction with. But when we take the word apart, poly meaning many, and we represent many. Ticks are little bloodsuckers. And so all of us can fall into that category. I don't agree in a lot of issues with Hannes. I've never sat down and spoke to him face to face, but I do know this, when we have had meetings, whether by video or in person, there's a high degree of integrity in what Mr. Hannes says. Thank you, sir. Thank you for allowing me to serve. And please, Mr. Brown, as my commissioner, I'm asking you, as a part of your constituency, please reconsider your vote and rescind it. I don't want to see Johnson County become like so many of the other entities in our metropolitan area where people are let go because of their beliefs. We're an open country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, Chairman Eilert, members of the Commission. My name is Tom Robinette. I'm the Vice President of Public Policy and Advocacy for the Overland Park Chamber. I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide some comments on behalf of our over 800 members on the action last week that you took to not renew the contract of the county manager. Probably won't be able to speak as eloquently as the other people here today, but I think I do offer an important and a little bit different and unique perspective for you. I'm not here today just because we like Hannes, although we do. In fact, we consider him a valued colleague and a friend. And as a business organization, we rarely take a position on what is essentially an administrative decision. However, I'm here not only because of where the county is today, we like that. We think that its direction and future is consistent with the future and vision and principles adopted by the Chamber, but also because we do not believe that non-renewal of the contract accurately reflects the will or desire of the business community or the county's taxpayers. Since the Commission's vote last Thursday, we've fielded many calls from members whose reaction about the vote ranges from shock and surprise to befuddlement to outrage. In fact, the very first member that called me last week began our conversation with, what the hell were they thinking? Unfortunately, I wasn't able to offer much help at the time. However, after listening to more and more of our business members who are made up of people that live and work and play and raise families and vote in Johnson County, the Chamber's Board's Executive Committee unanimously decided that we needed to speak out on their behalf. So what have we been told is the rationale for the decision? The statements made to explain the vote to not renew lack detail and substance. Instead, they rely on undefined and unsubstantiated phrases, such as the need for a new direction, a change in vision, the county manager being reactive and not proactive in his approach to the job, and being more organizationally focused than citizen focused. Judging from the many comments that we've received, the overwhelming question is why? Why move in a new direction and embrace a new vision from the one that has put Johnson County at the top of all counties, both statewide and nationally, by any and all metrics and standards that you might want to consider? Why sacrifice the consistency and predictability that is so highly valued by the business community without having clear, well-articulated reasons for doing so? Change solely for the sake of change creates anxiousness, apprehension, and concern, and is counterproductive. So let's consider two overall criteria for the evaluation: personal qualities and job performance. First, the easy part. Hannes's honesty, integrity, work ethic, and professionalism were unchallenged. Even those voting against contract renewal stated that Hannes exhibited all of these traits as the county manager and that their vote should not be interpreted otherwise. Hannes's personal characteristics were further reinforced by a formal statement issued by a group of county employees who found his vision to be one of fairness, safety, good stewardship, progress, communication and participation, celebration of diversity, respect, principled leadership, and unfailingly professional conduct. Secondly, as far as job performance is concerned, whenever we evaluate the state of the county, we look at the leadership provided by the county manager. Under Hannes's leadership, it's unquestioned that Johnson County has been and continues to be a place that is nationally recognized and sought out by both citizens and businesses to live and work. It's a community that cares deeply about all of its citizens and works to address their needs. Further, Johnson County government is a place where people want to work and feel good about working and doing their best to maintain the quality of life that's so important to all of our residents. I want to pass on the clear message that we've received from our members, that the present vision for the county is one that they strongly support and endorse, and that the current direction of the county is consistent with the principles and goals established by the Chamber and endorsed by our members. To continue on the path started a week ago is just a mistake. It creates uncertainty and apprehension not only among the great county employees, but also throughout the business community. It undermines the confidence and consistency that has been earned by county government over the years. But this is not a mistake that can't be corrected. You can reconsider your decision and make the needed effort to retain Hannes as our county manager. I'm not suggesting that it would be easy, but it is simple and it's the right thing to do. I understand that being in your position, representing your constituents, and having the responsibility of actually casting votes is difficult.
Mr. Robinette, I'm going to have to ask you to
Get gonged.
if you might.
I will. I will stop right there. I think clear, and we encourage you strongly support Hannes as the county manager. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Clark. My address is 7150 Millbrook, Shawnee. Hope you'll bear with me. I'm just going to be human and frank with y'all. I'm here as a citizen first. I've lived in this county for 32 of my 41 years. I moved here for the quality of life. I've stayed here for the quality of life, the services, the parks, all of the things that make this an awesome place to live. I've chosen to raise my child here because of the good schools. I came through those good schools. I'm also here as a county employee, and I've been serving this county as a public servant for 21 years. And I can tell you, I couldn't tell you who the previous county manager was. No idea. Never met that person, never interacted with that person, never had a clear idea of what their vision was. Not so with Hannes. The vision for this county has been amazing, and everybody knows what it is. Everybody's on board. I've never seen an organization so engaged with the community it serves and with the vision of that the commission and the constituents expect from us. I know it's difficult to achieve what we've achieved here, to strike a good balance between different priorities of safety, of health, of prosperity, but I think we do a heck of a job of it here. I think this is an amazing place to live. And really, I keep coming back to this it's a goofy metaphor, but to me, this community, under Hannes' leadership, is a Ferrari of communities. This is an awesome place to live. It's well run. We're efficient. We're effective. I love it here. I don't understand why we're taking the wheels off. I just think because I care about Hannes, I care about what happens to him, but for me it's not about Hannes. He's going to land on his feet. Other people know what we have, they want what we have. He's probably already being recruited by headhunters from other communities that want to achieve what we've achieved here. It'll probably be a promotion for him if we don't bring him back on board here. It'll be a big loss for us. For me, it's the community that I'm concerned about, and that's why I serve as a public servant, and that's why I'm here today, and I've never spoken in a forum like this before. So I guess, you know, whatever the alternate vision may be, I can't think of a better person to execute it. So, sorry, I'm meandering a little bit. I want to see this community continue to thrive. I want it to be a community of choice as it is. I want to be able to draw the best of the best to the best of the best. This is a great place to live, and I'd like to keep it moving in that direction. So I respectfully request that you reconsider the decision and renew Hannes' contract, or reinstate or put a new contract in place for the beginning of the year. And thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you.
I'm Amy Milakovich. I live at 14752 E.B. Street in Overland Park. I am not a county employee. I will be brief. I did not come here planning to speak today. I came here simply in support of our county manager and all the good that he's clearly done. But I have been watching the body language of all our commissioners while I've been standing back there. And some of you are very engaged, and you've been looking at us, and you've been listening to us. Some of you have been texting on your cell phone, and some of you, Mr. Klicka, have not raised your eyes to look at the people standing here, except when the head of the Chamber of Commerce was in here. So what I'm talking about now is not about whether that contract should have been renewed. You know that your citizens wanted it to. I'm talking about whether or not you are actually engaged in listening to your constituents, or whether, as the local news service said, oh, it's not going to make any difference what you all say. They said they've already made up their minds. I would like to see you be accountable to us.
Jana Walker, 25088 West 150th Terrace. What a huge crowd. I wish all of you would have been here for the past 5 or 6 months and heard all the citizens that have come and spoken here week after week and asked for transparency, for change, especially in Lineage Logistics. The fact that all of these people here were not listening to the community, the fact that the commissioners are being sued by the community because they weren't listening. So everyone up there is being held accountable for that. I don't know if the decision for Mr. Honest to not be here anymore is a good one or not. I don't know. But one thing I do know is if all of you have been here for the past 5 months, you would have heard citizen after citizen, our local and state representatives come here and say there's a huge concern with transparency and that change needs to happen. Now, who stays, who goes, I don't know, but all the commissioners know that I have spoken up for the community and have asked for them to listen to the community and show the community that they care. I'm here once again just to say I hope that this whole lawsuit will be taken care of immediately and come to a really good resolution, and just think about the community and the citizens when you're making those choices. Change is hard, change is good, but once again, I don't know if Mr. Honest, if that's a good vote or not, I don't know. But one thing I do know is I hear your concern saying that they're not listening. I wish you would have all been here. You would have heard all the citizens almost cry and say, please listen to us. Please rescind your vote on lineage logistics. Please, 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 week after week. So, change is good. Once again, I hope the new year you all will be more transparent and work with the community. Maybe have these meetings at night. Maybe send out a newsletter. Let people know what you are voting on so we can voice our opinions and concerns, and then listen to us. And let's work together. I don't think there should be any more lawsuits, etc., on anything. I think this is a great opportunity for change. Whatever that is, let's work together with the community from here on out. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else?
Good morning, Ann Dorsey, 9140 Acuff Lane, Lenexa. I'm an administrator at Johnson County Developmental Supports. I work on the administration side. And so I'm going to address you two ways. First, as an employee of Johnson County Developmental Supports, and secondly, as a citizen. I am here today. I do work on what they call at JCDS the carpet side of our workspace, but I am representing every person that has come to me and expressed concern about what has happened in this vote. They would be here today if they weren't tirelessly doing the jobs that none of you want to do. And so it is, I did not intend to speak, but after hearing everyone and knowing that some of those people couldn't or didn't want to come publicly in front of you all to discuss their concerns, I feel like it's my responsibility to do so. I have a master's degree in organizational leadership and have worked for the state of Kansas and other nonprofit organizations. And I can say strongly that this is Mr. Zacharias' leadership is exactly what they're teaching new leaders every single day in college, in graduate school, and in order to become good leaders. It's amazing that I went to a place that when I started at the county 4 years ago that was implementing this kind of leadership. Normally, I would tell people what I had learned. Johnson County was 3 steps ahead, and it is very concerning to all of us. The many members of my coworkers that came to me in tears when this occurred. Mainly because they love Mr. Zacharias and everything that he's done for us. But what does that mean for us? In a time where developmental supports, the future for our services is up in the air with the federal government, we knew we could turn to Johnson County, and we were in a place that would always support what we were doing and what we continue to try to do. This is very upsetting for my colleagues and myself, and so as an employee who strives to have great leadership, I would ask that you reverse your vote. As a citizen, I can tell you I didn't know this forum was happening until my best friend came home from water aerobics and told me that there were many people, county employees, that were going to be here today and that this form was available. So as a county employee who works very closely with the executive director at my area, I didn't know about this from him, but I knew about it from a citizen. Mr. Ashcraft, I am in your district, and so I'm going to speak to you as a voter. I vote in every election, every single one, the ones where it's not a presidential election, and I will continue to vote. I believe that the decision you made is incorrect, and many people in our area agree with you. And I can tell you that you are not up for re-election next year, but you will be soon. And if you don't reverse your vote on this, I will be very vocal. I will be vocal with my community members. I will be vocal as a citizen in my area. Sometimes for county commissioner in these kind of elections, people don't become very educated and they just click the box. This is a decision you've made that's going to follow you. If you reverse your decision, I will also be very vocal. So I want to I want to make sure that you understand that this decision will affect you, and as it affects us every single day. Safe work environments are hard to come by. You've all seen the news. And taking this away from your county employees who work tirelessly, many times doing the things you wouldn't dream of doing, we need that security, and we had that security. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Neil Melton, 10732 West 116th Street, Overland Park. I want to thank the board for the opportunity to engage in public comment today, and Chairman Eilert. Also want to thank you, Mr. Zacharias, for your service to the county. I don't have any prepared remarks today, but I do want to point out that the county is bigger than one individual. We were a great place to live prior to Mr. Zacharias' tenure, and I have no question that we'll be a great place to live once he has moved on. I will say that the county commissioners no doubt took all these aspects into consideration before making their decision. These are our duly elected members to serve as our governing body with the county, and so it is imperative that we rely on them to make these decisions. We don't know all the details of what went into this decision process, but this is not the precedent for how to make decisions for the county in this fashion. That is on election day, so when we have the elections, people can show up at that time. There's many in the county who are not represented here today that are at work or could not be here for other reasons. And so while I appreciate the comments that have been made today, and I understand that perspective and many of the things that were said were valid, I just want to say that I would urge the board to remain firm in their decision.
Thank you. Someone else?
Hello, my name is Cassidy Coles. I actually grew up in Johnson County, and I've lived here all my life except for just this past year. So I also want to identify myself as a county employee. I work for the library, and I've worked there for, it will be 14 years in February. I love working there. So I've been asked and entrusted with this responsibility to present you with a petition in support of our county manager. On Thursday, November 30th, 2017, the Johnson County Board of County Commissioners voted to end the contract of the county manager, Hannes Zacharias. The 4-3 vote resulted in ending Mr. Zacharias' contract effective December 31st, 2017. Under Mr. Zacharias' leadership, the county has flourished. From an increase in both parks and libraries, the opening of the Arts and Heritage Center, and a plan to build a new courthouse and Tomahawk wastewater facility. Mr. Zacharias has supported human services in a county that needs it just as much as the next one. He has recognized the need to supplement funding for mental health and support early intervention to get citizens the help they need. He had been our leader during the worst recession we have seen in our time, only to have the county be a better place than it was before that recession. Mr. Zacharias has implemented, supported, and most importantly, lived the LEAP Leadership Empowers All People philosophy, making our county an even better place of employment and in turn a better place to live. This previous October, Mr. Zacharias was awarded the Edwin Osteen, is that right? Do I have that right? Award for managerial excellence. Mr. Zacharias is respected in our county, in our state, and most impressively, in our nation. This decision you've made is not what your community wants. I speak for the more than 1,050 people who ask, who among you four who have the power to bring up the question, Mr. Brown, Mr. Osterhaus, Mr. Ashcraft, Mr. Klicka, who among you is brave enough to reconsider this decision, resulting in Mr. Zacharias remaining the county manager and our fearless leader? Thank you.
I am Dr. Jean Castleman. I live at 11111 West 120th Terrace in Overland Park. I'm speaking to you today as a mom, as a grandmother, as a retired educator, and as a Johnson Countyan who is not very happy today. Mr. Klicka, you represent me and I have voted for you in the past. We moved to Johnson County for reasons that others of you have articulated here, and we have not been disappointed. There's no need for me to go point by point. What's so great about Johnson County? You've already heard that, and you know that. We have not been disappointed, and we thank the commissioners now and for those for the last decades for the excellence that you've brought to our community, and we thank the current group as well, and we certainly thank the county manager. And so we have to ask, what has changed? What's your agenda? Those of you who have voted to terminate, what's your agenda? I don't know who you speak for. But Mr. Klicka, you do not speak for me. I'm a moderate, white, geezer woman. I have not been politically active since the 1960s. But I am now. And I have many, many sisters in Johnson County and in Kansas. And we will not be silenced. We will not be quiet. We will not go back to not paying attention to politics. Not now, not in 2018, not in 2021. We are watching. We expect you to stand up for us and for our families. Show some courage, gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hannah Williams. I live at 14708 Grandview Street. Mr. Klicka is my commissioner. My first hat I'd like to speak under is as a county resident. I grew up in Johnson County. I attended Blue Valley schools, and I have come back to Johnson County to work. I'd like to remind the commissioners that Johnson County is not a red or blue county, but a purple county. In the last election, it was almost 50-50 between our two presidential candidates. I'd also like to remind you that in the mayoral election, Carl Gerlach, who is a moderate one handily against a highly conservative opponent. So therefore, I heard some quotes about wanting to take the county in a more conservative fiscally and socially direction. That is not what your constituents want. My next hat I'd like to speak under is as a county employee. I am so excited to be able to work in the county I grew up in and give back to my community. I view that as my job as a human being, is to give as much good back into my community as possible. I love what I do. I enjoy helping the people of Johnson County. And I have heard nothing but praise for Mr. Zacharias from my fellow co-workers. There has not been one instance of negative talk about him. He has countless awards, which I have written down on a letter for you, Mr. Klicka. I also emailed this to all of you yesterday, so I hope you took the time to read it. I won't list them off now because they are quite numerous. I also am reminded of the pillars of performance of Johnson County, and from talking to fellow co-workers and doing some research on Mr. Zacharias, he is the epitome of what the pillars of performance for Johnson County embody. So I please ask you, Mr. Klicka, as my commissioner, to rescind your vote and renew a contract for Mr. Zacharias.
My name is Elaine Giesel. I live at 11705 West 101st Terrace in Overland Park. I'm a newcomer here. I only arrived in 1999. But since then, I've served on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee to Johnson County as a volunteer for 12, 13 years now, I think. And I had the joy of working as a park naturalist at your stepchild agency, Johnson County Park and Rec. I'm pretty much retired at this point, but I'm baffled. I can sum it up in one word. I'm baffled. Every year I was required to have an annual review. And if I met the expectations that I wrote down there and were approved the year before, if my evaluations from the public were appropriate and positive, all above 5, I think, if my supervisor had no complaints, I could reasonably expect to stay hired. That was part of the job. And so I met those expectations and set high goals. And I did stay employed, and I will say there were hard times when we didn't get raises. No one was laid off. And I was proud to be a part of that organization. This decision, I fear, has already done what the chamber official from Overland Park said. It has created uncertainty and apprehension. And I find it difficult to believe that you will be able to recruit someone to replace Hannes in this environment, in which there is no certainty of renewal of contract if you do your job well. And I think that is already a mark against you. It has already been stated that the political winds in Johnson County are changing, and I know Commissioner Osterhaus, who represents me, had commented that he represents all of his district. But he only has to look at the results of the last election to see where most of us wish to head. We removed a conservative representative in Topeka and put in a moderate. And that's where we wish to go. I think that is clear from the polls. And we will continue to move in that direction. So I would also ask that you reconsider this vote, and I would thank Hannes very much for his work over the years. Thank you, Hannes.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing us to be here. I didn't come here intending to talk. The reason I decided to talk is because I've been told many times in my life that I do a really good job of listening to both sides of an issue and helping each side understand each other. I'm a 23-year employee of Johnson County Mental Health. As I've heard someone else say, in all of my time at Johnson County, I never knew who was the county manager. I've always known who Hannes Zacharias was. I've appreciated his support. I've valued all the comments this morning that are in support of Hannes. Back to I hear both sides of an issue. I haven't heard the other side of the issue this morning. I haven't heard the other side of the issue. I haven't heard the other side of the issue in the things that I've read. If I did, I would be the first one to stand up and support them in trying to understand and view their side of the issue as well, because I value that. I'm a liberal, my family's conservative. They love me, I love them. We've learned to get along with our differences. The only thing I've heard here this morning that was in support of the decision was one gentleman who said, we need to trust you. Why should we if we're not even hearing from your side? The one thing I believe more than anything in life is fairness and balance. I have the yin-yang tattooed on my back right here because it represents that. I thought long and hard for many years before I got that tattoo. I see a lot of people who are really not happy about this decision. I've heard one person say, let's support our chairman, our board. So I'm concerned about that, and I hope that you are too. I hope that you see that what's happening here is lots of people saying they don't agree with your decision. And if you really firmly do still believe in your decision, please speak up and let your side be known, and let's hear if there's other citizens who agree. It's my understanding that today is the last day you can reverse your decision, but it's also my understanding that you could write up a new contract. So maybe you need to take some time to think about it. Maybe you need to take some time to hear from some other people. But hopefully before the end of the year, if there aren't a lot of other people that support your position, you'll write a new contract for him. Thank you. Thank you.
The last speaker, I'm reminded, did you state your name and address? I don't recall. All right, please, if you would, for the record.
Sorry, I'm Russell Dickinson. I work for Johnson County Mental Health. I'm not a resident of Johnson County. I was in the past, but I truly believe in Johnson County is why I continue to work for Johnson County. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
My name is Sharon Leon. I live at 17525 West 116th Street in Olathe, Kansas. Commissioner Brown, you are my representative. As a voting member of your district, I want to express my shock and disappointment in the move that you made against our county manager, Hannah Zacharias. I am looking at a county that has climbed to the top of the ladder in both employee satisfaction and in customer satisfaction. I'm also an employee of Johnson County. I see a county organization honored regionally and nationally with awards for so many departments within the county that you need to build a builder building just to display them all. I see a county being the benchmark for what a county should do for its citizens, what it should do for its employees, what it should do for its region, and what it should do for its future. Under the current leadership, Johnson County has risen to the top of the ladder. The move that you have made looks like you want us to jump off the ladder and start over. You, just as I, get to make choices on how we vote. You get to make decisions that you've made a mistake, and it's okay. I make mistakes every day, but I get to correct them. We all have someone to answer to, someone to make proud, a legacy to protect for our children's children. I do not believe that the decision to change our county manager will lead to a brighter tomorrow. This is a county rich in tradition, rich in talent, rich in experiences, and rich in dedication. To change the tone or alter the course of the county would be a mistake for its citizens. I urge you to reconsider this vote. I urge you to either reconsider or offer him a new contract. One of the first people I met when I came here was Hannah Zacharias. He made me feel welcome and proud to be here. 10 years later, I still feel welcome. I still feel proud. I've never spoken in an arena like this. I've never been a political person, ever. I'm very, very much in the middle and can see both sides of almost everything. I can't see it here. I cannot see it. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Good morning. My name is Dante Glenecki. I live at 10222 West 96th Terrace in Overland Park. I work as an emergency manager for a large city on the Missouri side, but I'm here as a resident and speaking only as a resident of Johnson County. I have the privilege of working with Hannes as he is the chair or co-chair of the Regional Homeland Security Oversight or Coordinating Committee. This is a group that works to promote public safety, emergency management, first responder successes throughout the metro area. It's a very important organization for us. Hannes has done a terrific job in leading that organization, and I've seen his leadership firsthand, and I've seen how effective he is in that regard. I can only observe somewhat from a distance about all the services that are offered in Johnson County, but I do observe that they're efficient and cost-effective. My job as emergency manager is specialized in what I call emergency human services. I work to promote human services in disasters. I've seen a lot of things in my 30 years in the business, but I do know this from all that experience. When it comes to human services, government makes a difference. And it isn't a matter of large government or small government. It's the right size government. Clearly, Johnson County has the right size government. From any casual observer, they would know this. I think Hannes has really propelled us to that status. Johnson County Emergency Management is really the leader, probably in the whole metro area, and probably in Kansas. And I think its success is just one piece of evidence for, I think, Hannes' success as a county manager. I would say that when there is a disaster and people need help, it takes that safety net that government can help support. It isn't all about government, of course. There's lots of partner agencies that provide help, and they're critical, but government has to be the basic framework and structure that allows all those services to be provided. And it only takes one small failure in those services for someone to practically never recover from a disaster. So I think that Johnson County has that ability to sew that safety net tightly and successfully in a cost-efficient manner. I think this is due to Hannes and his efforts over the years, and I'd like to see that sustained. I'll say this, my folks immigrated to Johnson County in 1965. They came from Europe after World War II. They've never really availed themselves of county services, but it's good to know that they're there. It's good to know that my 96-year-old mother can access those services. So for those reasons, I think it's important to consider that my father, my mother, they came from Europe to avoid extremism, and I think if we could keep the moderate level of government that we have, the efficiency that we have, and the effectiveness that we have in place, I know that if I needed those services, I could call upon the county. Just as I hope if, heaven forbid, we ever have a disaster in this county of significant proportions, that our residents can call on that safety net. So I urge you to reconsider your vote, please. And we know that people like my folks, they came to this county to somewhat avoid extremism in politics and extremism in government. My father resisted both Soviets and he fought the Nazis. So I think he looked for something and found something here in Johnson County, and I think that is worth fighting for. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Christy Blomquist. I was a resident of Johnson County for 40 years, starting in 1977. The first time I met Hannes, he told me what an important part of democracy I just became by joining the county workforce. Through the 6 years I have worked under his leadership, he has taught a social worker who has to count on her fingers what a mill levy is and what a bond rating means. He has inspired me to use my voice. He has told me my ideas are important. He has imparted to me the sacredness of being a public servant and to wear that badge with honor. Above all, he has taught me that it is my duty to care, engage, and work tirelessly for this community. You can do whatever you want and choose. You've shown that. You have terminated Hannes's contract. But you will never be able to extinguish the fire of leadership that he sparked in 4,000 people. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mary Lynn Poskin. I'm at 12924 Howe Drive in Leawood. I'd like to thank my representative Schaffer for voting to continue the contract. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I come before you today mainly as a mom. I did serve the county for 8 years at Johnson County Community College. I landed in Johnson County in 2002. That's after growing up in the Air Force. My father was a colonel in the Air Force, and then my first husband was a corporate mover. We moved every 18 to 24 months. When I landed here in 2002, I put an end to 40 years of moving all across the country, and I've lived in counties all over the country. And it took Johnson County to stop me in my tracks and say, I'm going to stay here. I had the privilege of raising my children in Johnson County with all of its services, beautiful schools, fantastic amenities. And I did so very cheerfully complacent. Sort of sat around and enjoyed it all. And I will tell you that what I missed was this whole fiscally responsible and socially conservative movement that came in and took over my national party that I belonged to. I've been a Republican since 1983. And so for the first time in my life, I did not vote partisan party in 2016. And so I've become a lot more active in throwing off that shroud of complacency and saying, gee, I'm so lucky I get to live here, and instead paying attention. I've focused most of my activities on the national level, and when I read about the contract not being renewed for our county manager, I thought, what? This is the best county I've seen in my life, and I've lived in a lot of them. And I will tell you that when those words crept in, I knew I had to show up today in support of renewing the contract and to ask the commissioners who did not vote to renew the contract to please do so. As well, I just wanted to say that we have a personal connection with Mr. Zacharias. My husband used to live in Colony Hills and told me to give him hell. So please, please reconsider your vote and do what is right for the county. We are moderate people, Purple County, and I ask you to please reconsider your decisions on this day. Thank you.
My name is William Joyce, and I'm going to change the subject for a moment. I have a copy of a letter, sent a copy of a letter to Paul Welcome, and I hope that he will respond. I have physical problems that I attended to last Thursday. I passed out on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and that's the third time since November 2012. The letter states, there are several problems with your letter of October 24, 2017. You should come to the subject property and photograph all objects that support your increase in value over $66,500. The $124,900 value does not consider the many costly problems involved in making this house saleable for up to 8 of 12 FHA minimum property standards or some other lending institution. The value also ignores the 110 pictures taken by the county and other pictures by the taxpayer. As noted on the FHA sheet, the Kansas City Star on around Wednesday, May 13, 2009, wrote that, she stated that comparable for 99% wasn't difficult. The other 5% can be very difficult. This included the residents that were old, run down. These properties will always be unique. On Belinda Court, there are 8 ranch-style houses that are north of 48 Terrace, and 14 houses that are 1.5, 2 stories south of it. Why isn't 4806 Belinda Court one of the unique ones with all of its problems? What family of 4 or more is going to pay $124,900 cash for a house that needs over $132,000 to $190,000 for repairs for a house with a ridiculous floor plan? Both the Johnson County Appraiser Department and the Topeka Board of Tax Appeal have completely ignored the 2009 to 2010 order on reconsideration by the Court of Tax Appeal of the state of Kansas that stated, quote, "The court finds that the subject property had structural, foundation, roof, and mechanical system problems as well as dated decor. While the subject property is located in an area of residences with greater appraised value, the physical condition and deferred maintenance in the subject property are clearly atypical. The taxpayer estimated the cost to repair these items was over $100,000. Now that is over $132,000. And the county did not present any specific evidence to dispute these repair costs. Based thereon, the court finds the subject property to 2009 appraised value is $84,900. I have pictures of 2 other houses from 47th Street to 48 Terrace. There are some other houses that are, one is the size of a two-car, about a small two-car garage, and it sold for $50,000, and now it's up to $66,800. Another house that sold for $114,600 rather, is now up to $265,000. That's all.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Larry Meeker. I reside at 503 Pawnee Street East, Lake Quivira, Kansas. I am not an employee of the county. However, I would like to congratulate my commissioner, Jim Allen, on his vote, on Hannah Zacharias, you, Mr. Chairman, and you, Ron Schaefer. I'm a volunteer for the county. I've volunteered in many capacities over many years. My wife has done likewise. We've done that because Johnson County has been a place of choice. And the county puts that out to businesses and future residents every day. Listening to the county employees here this morning, it's clear that that's becoming in question when it comes to being a place of choice to work. And I think listening to the Overland Park individual, it's also something that will come into question when people want to move their businesses here, move their families here. The pregnant question in the room today has been why? And I would like to yield the rest of my time to any one of the 4 commissioners who voted the other way to make that explanation in this very public forum at this point.
Is there anyone else?
Larry Gisgrip, 6321 West 108th Street. This last weekend, I was at the Luminary. It was real busy out there. So when I heard this, I didn't feel it was good news. We have a high performance organization here in the county. Also, I got news from my doctor. That was not good. Change is stressful. I disagree with that lady. I thought about Kansas City, Missouri. This is the kind of publicity they get that you guys brought on here. I think you should reconsider the contract.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right. Here comes someone.
Hi, my name is Kelly Gillespie. I live at 5226 Clark Drive in Roland Park, Kansas. We live in a unique area of Johnson County that sort of straddles the haves and the have-nots. I'm acutely aware of the issues that face families of a variety of different socioeconomic backgrounds. Most of those people are not represented today. They're at work, they can't be here, and they can't speak out. I am vehemently opposed to not renewing Mr. Zacharias' contract. He's a good leader, he's a good boss, he's done good things for this county. And I also want to say that I am vehemently concerned about the idea of moving Johnson County in a socially conservative direction. What does that mean? This board consists of white, middle-aged men, and frankly, 4 of you are woefully out of touch with the makeup of this county. We could live anywhere. My husband's an architect. I work at the Central Resource Library. We choose to stay in Johnson County. I don't particularly like Kansas. I don't like the politics. I don't like the weather. But we stay because Johnson County is where I grew up. I've lived here for 39 years. It's where we want to raise our kids because it's a good place to grow up. It's a good place to raise your kids. My children are all in the public school system. One's not. My younger children are in the public school system. And their school is a mini habitat of the real world. My children go to school with kids who don't like breaks because they don't eat. My kids go to school with children who are in the school for 2 days and then they go somewhere else because they're in the foster care system. That is part of the reality of Johnson County, and that's part of the reality that I think many of you don't understand. You have the opportunity to do what's right. Socially conservative is not what Johnson County residents want. I don't even know what that means anymore. Does that mean fewer minorities? Does that mean rolling back rights for lesbian and gay people? What does that mean? If I wanted to live in a socially conservative part of Kansas, I'd move to Topeka. I'd move to Wichita. That's not what I want. That's not what most of us want. So I urge you to extend Hannes's contract, and I urge you to get in touch with the people that you represent, because Mr. Klicka, I don't think you get it. I really don't think most of you understand the population that you represent, and you are not putting yourselves out there and making yourself available and taking a good long look. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, if there is no one else to be heard, we will close the public comment portion of our agenda. Normally, we make no decisions following our public comment portion of our agenda. Today, I'm going to vary that. This is an important decision, and obviously, many individuals are interested and have expressed a viewpoint different than represented by the decision that was made by the County Commission. There are two possibilities at this time, and they've been somewhat referenced. Robert's Rules allows a motion to reconsider a previous action. However, the step that would need to be taken in that regard is for a member of the majority vote, one of the four members, to declare today that they're interested in making a motion to reconsider at our next meeting. Absent that action today, that opportunity to reconsider goes by the boards. The other option, and the result of the action taken last week, was to terminate the existing contract at the end of end of this year, December 31. There could be a motion to authorize negotiations of a new contract to be effective January 1 of 2018. So those are the options that are before us today. And if there's any comment that any member of the board wishes to make in regards to the issue that's been presented or addressed to us today, certainly an opportunity is available. Mr. Allen.
Mr. Chairman, failing to hear any motion to reconsider, I will move forward on a motion on a new contract. It's been an honor for me to be an elected official in this county for over 28 years, and I was pretty adamant last week on my support and on my vote. I actually apologize, but I'm not usually that vocal, but in my opinion, it's been an honor to work with Mr. Zacharias. The testimonies that I heard today from the employees, I do appreciate. I do listen. And I'm going to go back to a decision many years ago in Shawnee. There was a proposal to build a racetrack where Mill Valley High School sits. And we had a meeting at Shawnee Mission Northwest, probably 500 people on there. The consensus was the votes were there to approve this racetrack. I was opposed to that position, made my feelings early on that. But the consensus was that there's 8 members on the council. It was going to be a 4-4 vote with the mayor at that time breaking the vote. We had a several-hour meeting, and so when it came to the vote, shockingly, one of the persons that all along was opposed to that vote changed their position. Today, if you go out there where this proposed racetrack would have been, you'll find one of the best residential developments in Johnson County, an award-winning high school, 2 grade schools. I had a vision of what that would be for Shawnee long-term. Our county manager possesses those same visions that were stated today. I'm asking for one of the commissioners to reconsider, to have the courage to do what's best for this county and the future of this county. It can be done. So it's an honor for me to make this motion. I would move that the Board of the Johnson County Commissioners extend the contract starting January 1st, 2018 for Hannes Zacharias.
I will happily second that motion. Like Commissioner Allen, I've been an elected official for almost 30 years now. And along with Chair Eilert, we've been involved in a number of votes in our political career. And the one that was held last Thursday was one of the most difficult I've been a part of. It's so simple to vote no on that particular motion because we've heard it all from you all today. I want to thank everyone who took the time to call me, to send positive emails to me regarding my vote, and also, but more importantly, the acceptance for Hannes's service that he's provided for us all these years. So it's my honor to happily accept that or make that second to that motion, and I hope one of the other commissioners who voted yes previously has the will to find a way to move this county forward and bring Hannes back for at least another year.
Are there any other comments? Well, I would simply follow up. I will support this motion. I've made my comments available to the press, to the employees. In the last 2 or 3 days, Vice Chair Allen and I have met, 300, 350, 400 employees, and there will be additional conversations that will take place. Through all of this discussion, the one thing that continues to be paramount in my decision is that you can look at all of the data surrounding Johnson County and the performance of our employees, the performance of the departments and agencies that they work in and represent. You can look at the outside evaluations of our county's performance. They are all at the top. And so when you talk about excellence in government, it's there. The data is there to support the renewal of the contract of Mr. Zacharias. He is the primary individual who is responsible for leading our workforce, for offering suggestions and recommendations to the Commission. And I should also say this, the county manager makes recommendations. The Commission makes the final decision. So if there are concerns about budget items, if there are concerns about other activities that the county is engaged in, those are recommendations that come to this body, and so we must accept that it's our responsibility to make those judgments, and we have. Last February, this commission developed 8 or 9 strategic items that we wanted to be addressed this year. Most, if not all of those, have been addressed, completed, or action is underway. That was the county manager's responsibility to follow the direction of this body. That has happened. That has been accomplished. So, with that having been said, I will support the motion that has just been made and seconded. Other comments? All right, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickham?
No.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
No.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
No.
Commissioner Brown?
No.
Chairman Eilert?
Aye. Motion failed by a vote of 4 to 3. There has been no indication or statement as to a desire to reconsider, so that also is concluded. Thank you all very much for being here today. I know for many of you it took some courage to speak out on an issue that's very important to you, and it is appreciated very much. We will take about a 5-minute recess and come back to conclude the rest of our agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I understand that window. Have a good day. Good morning. How are you? I'm just fine, Mr. Meeker. How are you? Good.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Ready?
At this time, we will reconvene from our recess and move to the balance of our agendas. I do have one note for the record. I have signed an amendment to the Cooperative Fire Service Task Force study with Emergency Services Consulting International for a strategic plan, framework, and facilitation. Moving to the consent agenda. Will the clerk please read the proposed consent agenda items?
Item number 1, resolution number 100-17, consider adopting Johnson County Mainframe Computer Operators Placement and Assistance Program authorizing priority placement, placement assistance, and/or severance agreements for mainframe computer operators in the Department of Technology and Innovation, displaced as a result of changes in technology and the concomitant obsolescence of their positions. Item number 2, consider approving an exception to competition under Administrative Purchasing Procedure number 110.180, and authorizing a contract with Haynes Equipment Company, Inc. for the procurement and maintenance of the Environment 1 E-01 sewage grinder pumps for Johnson County wastewater for an annual amount not to exceed $250,000. The contract period for this award is for 1 year with an option to renew for 4 additional 1-year periods. Item number 3, request for proposal number 2017-066. Consider authorizing a term and supply contracts with Black & Veatch Corporation, Burns & McDonnell Engineering Corporation, George Butler Associates, Inc., HDR Engineering, Inc., and Trek Design Group, LLC, for engineering services for Johnson County wastewater collection system projects in an amount not to exceed $6 million annually. The contract period for this authorization is for 1 year with an option to renew for 4 additional one-year periods.
Move for the consent docket.
All right, let me first ask the question, is there any item anyone would like to have considered separately on the dais? Is there anyone present who would like to have an item considered separately? All right, the motion to approve is before us. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickham?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus? Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Eilert?
Aye. Motion carried. Before we move to the first action item, I have an item that I'd like to receive a motion to add to the agenda. This is a contract for the demolition of the properties on Block 29, which are involved with the courthouse and the parking, and that needs to be completed ASAP. So, do I hear a motion to add that item? Would be item number 8, I think.
So moved.
Second. So moved.
Motion has been made and seconded to add the item in regards to the demolition contract as noted. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen? Aye. Commissioner Clickham?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Eilert?
Aye. Motion carried. All right, moving to item number 4 on the action agenda.
Consider approving the November 9, 2017 business session minutes.
Okay. Mr. Clicker was absent. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move that we approve the November 9, 2017 business session minutes.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the minutes as noted. Any corrections or additions? There being none, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickham?
Abstain?
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Eilert?
Aye. Motion carried. Next item.
Item number 5, resolution number WD 17-031. Conduct a public hearing and consider authorizing funds for Johnson County wastewater infrastructure improvement projects in an amount not to exceed $3,604,956.09 and procurement of a hydrojet truck and closed-circuit camera television units.
Ms. Pekarik, this is a public hearing. Hearing is open.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Susan Pekarik with Wastewater. This request that you have before you is for multiple projects that are part of the Wastewater Capital Improvement Program. The project requests include the following. Section for treatment and pumping asset renewal in the amount of $1.4 million. These are projects that we have identified through our asset management program that are in need of renewal due to the condition, the reliability, risk of failure, or perhaps safety concerns. Projects include evaluations, design, and construction of these improvements. Engineering services will be provided by the consultants that were selected under the treatment and pumping asset renewal request for proposal earlier this year. As well, and construction will also be utilized either under existing term and supply contracts or procured through the county's purchasing procedures. The next item is the collection system asset renewal in the amount of $934,000. Similar to the treatment and pumping asset renewal, these are projects that have been identified through our asset management program, either due to through our condition assessments and our evaluation of the risk of failure of our assets. Each year we inspect over 100 miles of our sanitary sewer pipe, and we use that to assess the condition of our lines and place a risk score with those lines. We will be utilizing the funds as well as part of our sanitary sewer stream crossing program, where we identify sanitary sewers that are at risk that are crossing streams. Engineering services will be provided by the consultants that were selected under the collection system asset renewal proposal. The firms you have listed in your briefing sheet are the ones that are currently under contract. Under the consent item that was just approved by the board, those contracts we expect will be issued later this year, and those firms will be utilized to do these projects. The cured in place pipe will be performed by SAK.
who is our term and supply contractor, with their contract being awarded in 2014. Sewer line renewal will be provided by our term and supply contract with Weedham and Godfrey, or will be utilizing purchasing procedures to procure that work. The next item is for flow monitoring in the amount of $100,000. We utilize flow monitoring to help us understand how our sewer system reacts during rainfall events. That helps us guide where we're going to spend our dollars for rehabilitation and relief efforts. We typically monitor in the spring and the fall when we're utilizing flow monitoring. The next item on the list is for backup prevention, and that requested amount is in the amount of $650,000. The Backup Prevention Program, or BUP, as we abbreviate it to, provides assistance to properties that experience sanitary sewer backups during large rainfall events. This program was initiated in 1998. On August 24th of this year, the board authorized $250,000 after we had 2 large rainfall events where we received over 5.5 inches of rain over much of our area in less than 24 hours. During that same week, we actually experienced a 3rd storm event. Since that time, since those 3 storms, wastewater has received over 450 calls from properties requesting information about the program. We currently estimate that we'll be approving 300 new backup prevention devices to be installed as a result of basement backups from those 3 storms. The average cost of an installation is about $2,500. Therefore, we are requesting $650,000 to provide adequate funding in order to provide these BUP devices. The next item is a hydrojet truck. This request is in the amount of $251,993. Each year, or every day, we perform preventive maintenance by cleaning the sanitary sewer lines as part of our asset management program. When we clean the lines, we're removing roots and debris, and that helps us reduce the occurrence of backups into homes and businesses. We currently operate 9 trucks, and we replace them on an approximate 10-year cycle based on their condition and the repair cost. This request is to replace one of our existing trucks. We'll be utilizing a cooperative agreement through MARC and through the National Joint Powers Alliance for the equipment. And for the vehicle itself, the cab and chassis, will be utilizing a Metro vehicle bid. Key Equipment is our local provider for the Vector truck, or the equipment piece, and MHC Kenworth will provide the cab and the chassis. Board action under this item will authorize the funds as well as the purchase of this truck. The last item is for CCTV, which is closed circuit camera systems, our closed circuit camera systems that we utilize to inspect our sanitary sewer pipes. We operate over 2,200 miles of sanitary sewer line in Johnson County. The current camera systems that we have experienced several failures, and that's resulted in a great deal of loss in productivity. Earlier this year, we installed a camera from EnviroSite Rover. Since the time that camera has been installed, we have had no failures with that camera. In addition, the advantage to this camera is it can be locally repaired versus the ones we have now, which we have to send away to Florida or Wisconsin in order to be repaired. These cameras will be procured from Key Equipment, also utilizing the National Joint Powers Alliance cooperative contract. Again, action for this item will authorize the funds as well as the purchase and installation of those cameras on the 3 remaining trucks. Funding for all of these projects was included in our capital improvement program as part of the Consolidated Main Sewer District and in the presentation that we made to the board earlier this year. And with that, I'll be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, yesterday I had the pleasure of visiting with Ms. Pekarik on this item, and I wanted to ask her if she would repeat or elaborate on one question in particular. And I'll take the first item as an example, the treatment and pumping facility asset renewal. There are, I believe, 5 consultants listed, and those 5 will create a pool in which staff will be able to draw upon for, and Ms. McCarroll, I can't remember if it was 4 or 5 potential projects. It was some number of projects. that still have to be developed and I think fully refined, but there's more than one project that's in that 1.4 million, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. The question I had was the process that we use, since we are limiting it to these 5 consultants, how do we ensure that we get competitive pricing as we go through the process? As you know, I'm sensitive to that argument, and I just would like you to elaborate if you could.
Certainly. So as you know, the county has a request for proposal process as part of our purchasing policies and procedures. And so for example, the one you were using as the example, treatment and pumping facility asset renewal, they compete to get the term supply contracts under which they will then perform this work. When it comes to selecting a firm for a project, our professional engineering staff then works through and negotiates a scope and a fee with those firms, and then we authorize them to sign the work. That's, of course, after the board authorizes the funding.
Okay. Now, as a rule, of the 4 or 5 projects that are planned, you believe that there will be multiple, more than one of these vendors that will be qualified in order to express an interest or compete for the work?
They competed as part of the RFP process.
So you think all 5 will have an interest in all projects under this item?
They could have an interest in all the projects. We typically evaluate who's going to be doing the work based on the skill set that they provided as part of their request for proposal, as well as their workload.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, this is a public, excuse me, Mr. Ostraus.
Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Can you, I missed the part where you talked about the BUP program? Yeah. Can you remind us how much we added to that again? Can you remind me the dollar amount?
So in August, the board added $250,000, and then we're based on the additional calls. So we've continued to receive calls since that time. That was actually early on after those first 2 storms that we received. We received a 3rd storm that week in August when the board authorized the additional funding. So since that time, we've already approved over 200 new BUP devices. We're estimating based on the backlog we're still working through, we'll be approving as many as 300 new backup devices or BUP devices to go into homes. So at an average cost of $2,500, $650,000 will help us cover that, as well as leave some money. Each year we spend on average between $30,000 and $50,000, just depending on the weather and if we get storms like we had this year, which is extremely rare. Those are storms that actually have about a 2% chance of occurring, and we had 3 of them occur within 30 days.
So we basically added to the budget.
We're adding to that program.
Normally added to that program.
Yes, right, that program's been in place since the late 90s, I think I said 98.
Yeah.
And each time we add to it as we identify new places where we need to install BUP.
Okay.
Does that help?
To make sure we're adding and not cutting. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone present who would like to address the commission on this item? All right. No one to be heard. It's back before the commission. Public hearing is closed. Mr. Allen, you have a comment.
I just want to let Mr. Ostraus make the motion, but I just want to make a comment. I had the pleasure of attending Johnson County Wastewater's recognition luncheon yesterday, and several outstanding results for the wastewater department. The one to me that was extremely impressive, we operate 6 major sewer treatment plants, and when their water quality goes through the treatment process, if I understand this correctly, there's 2,300 metric points where you could fail that inspection either by the state or by the EPA. Some of these plants, frankly, are not new plants. They're difficult to operate. Johnson County Wastewater last year in our 6 treatment plants had 0 violations. Some of those plants have went longer than 10 years without a single violation. In my opinion, the reason I want to bring it up, I just think it's another example of outstanding service that, frankly, a lot of people don't know about. and frankly, a credit to Mr. Zacharias' leadership again. Thank you.
That's extraordinary, Susan. Thank you.
We have a great team. Thank you.
Do we have a motion? Mr. Klicka, or excuse me, go ahead, Steve.
I moved to the board approve resolution number WD 17-031, authorizing funds for Johnson County wastewater infrastructure improvement projects in an amount not to exceed $3,604,956.09, and procurement of a Hydrojet truck and closed-circuit camera television units. Is that correct?
That's what it says, I think.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Osterhaus has a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, there being none, the motion is to approve the resolution as identified. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickham?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Eilert?
Aye. Motion carried. Next item.
Item number 6, resolution numbers 097-17 and 098-17, and application numbers AUOX PRB1 3355 and AUOX CU 3356. Consider a request from Phelps Engineering, Inc., applicant, and JJL Properties, LLC, landowner, for rezoning from RUR Rural District to PRB1 Planned Rural Retail Business District, and conditional use permit for a plumbing shop and contractor yard at 19850 Newton Street.
Mr. Greeley.
Good morning, Paul Greeley with the Planning Department. This project involves two applications. One, a rezoning from rural district zoning to retail business district zoning of about 15 acres, and two, a conditional use permit for a plumbing shop and a contractor yard operation in existing buildings on the property, about 5 acres. A public hearing has been held, and the zoning board and staff both have made recommendations on the two applications. On the first application, the retail business district zoning, zoning board staff are recommending a lesser change than the 15 acres to 5 acres of the subject property, which on the screen is outlined in red. The yellow line is the 15-acre portion. The red, again, is the 5-acre portion that contains the existing buildings and is similar to the conditional use permit area. So a lesser change in zoning on the retail business, recommendation for approval on the conditional use permit for the same 5-acre portion. Both recommendations come with stipulations. First, on the zoning, that the project be done per the development plan, which is the 5-acre area. I'll note that the rest of the property, the 10-acre area, there is no plan. The applicant submitted no plan for that, so one of the reasons why we supported a lesser change. And then on the conditional use permit, fairly standard types of stipulations, a term of 10 years, stipulations on screening, on lighting, on hours of operation, limited exterior storage. I can go through those in more detail if you'd like. The applicant and representatives are here this morning, and we're available for questions.
Okay, any questions of staff? The applicant present, any comments you'd like to make?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Harold Phelps, Phelps Engineering, 1270 North Winchester, Olathe, Kansas. I am representing Brian Miller, the property owner here today. Brian is a longtime resident of Johnson County and Stillwell area. His business is currently in Stillwell. He intends to run a plumbing operation, as staff has clearly pointed out in the report. We're in agreement to all the stipulations and in agreement to the reduction in the zoning area. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions of the applicant? All right, thank you. Excuse me, Mr. Osterhaus.
Hi. How many stipulations were there total? Do we know, Paul?
14.
14. 14? 14.
14.
Okay. So, and the applicant's okay with all of those?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone present who would like to address the commission on this item? Yes, ma'am.
Chairman and members of the board, I'm Ruth Landau Vano, and I'm representing Landau Investment Company.
Okay, can you state your address, please?
My address is 7720 West 199th Street, which is adjacent property. If you look up at the screen, it's the building right in front of the red line and the yellow line that goes back. And I'm not here to object to the application before the board. The property owner knows that Landau Investment Company's concern at that location is the lateral lines that are close to the gravel road that the applicant is required to pave, and the concern being that those lateral lines not be damaged or affected by any of the project. And the engineer has indicated that they would notify us when they're going to do that project, and that they would keep us informed, and that at this point in time there's no requirement or request for any easement or any access to our adjacent property. And that's where I'm going to, that's exactly what he had agreed to. So not only has he agreed to your stipulations, he's also worked with us as an adjacent property owner to protect our interest in that lateral line field.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Greeley, or can you speak to that issue?
Could you repeat the question, please? I'm sorry.
Pardon? The question that she had.
About the lateral lines?
Right.
Okay. Well, it's our understanding, just to clarify on the screen here, Ms. Landau's property that she's talking about is this white shape, that's a building rooftop, that, as you can see, is just immediately adjacent to the subject project here. In this area here, north of the building, are where the lateral lines are located for this building. And next to that, as you can see where the cursor is a drive that comes in and goes back to the property. And I know Ms. Landau was concerned about upgrading this driveway that goes back to the buildings from gravel to pavement, and that there not be any disturbance over on her side where the lateral lines are. And
you say, well, there will not be...
And my understanding is she's talked to Mr. Miller, who is here today, and they have a clear understanding that he needs to keep his crews and his workers over on his side as they improve this driveway and stay off her property. And my understanding, while that's not stipulated here, we didn't go there, staff that is, that they will survey and mark that location, and that there will be communication again between the two property owners and their workers to ensure that there's no trespass or workers going over onto the...
All right, thank you. Let me ask Mr. Phelps, are you prepared to state for the record?
We have, yes. And we have talked to Ms. Landau as well.
Would you please come to the microphone? Sorry, Mr. Chair. We have talked to Ms. Landau, and we went on the record at the Planning Township Zoning Board as well, that we will stake that property line and stay off her laterals on her Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions on that, Mr. Allen?
The question I had on these lateral, is it for a sanitary sewer system or a septic system?
Septic system.
Okay, so that's why that's so critical to stay off of. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, if there's no one else to be heard, it's back before the commission. A motion would be in order.
I'll move it.
Mr. Schaefer,
Happy to
are
move
you
that.
prepared? Go ahead.
I move to adopt resolution number, make sure I get the right one, 097-17, approving rezoning from RUR Rural District to PRB1 Plan Rural Retail Business District for the reasons and subject to the stipulations set forth within the resolutions. And, can I do these both at once?
Yes.
And I move to adopt resolution number 098-17, approving a conditional use permit for a plumbing shop and contractor yard for the reasons subject to the stipulations set forth within the resolution.
Second.
Second.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded to approve the resolutions as identified and for the plumbing shop as described in the application. Is there any further discussion or comments? There being none, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickham?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Eilert?
Aye. Motion carried. Next item, number 7.
Resolution number 099-17, conduct a public hearing and consider whether to vacate 199th Street, lying between Foster Street and Johnson Street in the town of Aubrey, Johnson County, Kansas.
Public hearing is open. Mr. Pedig.
Good morning, Brian Pedig with Public Works. This is a request to vacate 198th Street between Foster and Johnson, shown in red. That's in the Stillwell area. Just for reference, this is Metcalf that I'm drawing the arrow across, 199th Street and US 69. When Planning and Public Works look at a vacation, we consider the near-term uses as well as the long-term uses. And in this area, we see that 198th Street connects across to Metcalf. There's 140 acres of currently undeveloped property to the east that would connect to, as well as to the west. You just considered an item where there's about 20 acres of partially developed, and then going south, connecting up to 199th Street. There is also Foster that connects to 199th Street and an undeveloped 120-acre parcel. Additionally, 198th Street is a quasi-unofficial delineator between the north and south areas, where north is residential types of development and south is a mixture of residential and commercial, and that's a type of delineation that you see in some of the older areas of Overland Park. So when we look at this, we did not recommend vacating this section of 198th Street. I know the petitioners here, and they will have some comments to make as well, and we'll answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Pedig, as I look at the proposed street connections between Foster and the street on the east, the loop streets that you've identified to the undeveloped property on the east side and the property on the west, those street connections could still be made, right, even if this was vacated?
If it were vacated and there weren't structures there, they can be impediments to that future connection.
You mean to Foster?
So 198th Street in this area, if nothing is built on it, and even if something is built on it, you know, we have purchased homes and acquired right away where it required the homes to be torn down. That's a very difficult position to put our body in, but that can still happen, yes.
Okay, well, I guess I was more directed the question at the connection on the west side of Foster. Do you understand what I'm
apparently not following you, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, let's say the red line on the west side of Foster, the curved red line, that connection could still be made to Foster with this vacation, right?
Sure.
Okay, and the same thing on the east side.
Yes.
Eastern Street. So those red line connections could still be made with the vacation?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Allen.
I know these are difficult issues when we address them. We're still going to hear from the applicant, but I've been very consistent in supporting planning staff on this. Is my observation long-term, I don't know what will happen on the property, the approximately 140 acres, but to have different access points is, and you know, to be able, frankly, to maybe go northbound on Metcalf, if it's dead-ended, then you're creating some conflicts, in my opinion, and I'm going to support planning staff on this. I always come back to is these may seem like minor deals when we address them, but we have projections where this county is going to have over 1 million population in the next 30 years. So incrementally, when we vary from these, it just bothers me. I believe in planning. I believe to look into the future, and I've been consistent on that. I doubt that there's valid reasons from the applicant standpoint to look at it, but I'm looking at a community that's currently 600,000 with a projection of 1 million, and having cross points and different access, in my experience, that's always been a good thing, and I will continue to look at these items, and I am concerned about the future, and the more of these that we vary from makes it more difficult, in my opinion. So I will be consistent and support staff on this.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pedic, a couple of questions, and work with me on the terminology. Is the type of configuration that you've outlined with the red arching roads, is that common in the county, in Johnson County? Do we do that a lot?
So if you look in the urban areas, those would be collector streets. And this is just an example. That's obviously not a developer that's come forward. Right. That's just the illustration that local interior roads we try to get those to connect up. So that's a common theme that you will see in the urban areas as development occurs. You try to connect those intersection points up.
Okay. Well, given the fact that, and I'm sorry I don't know the neighborhoods that well, but given the fact that the vacated, the request for the vacated area and the 2 blocks to the east that are the green line, what street is that again?
Just make sure we're talking about something. This street here, 198th Street.
198th. Well, given the fact that it's 198th is kind of toenailed in between the highway and the lake, what do you anticipate seeing it as the traffic count for that roadway, regardless of the configuration, if it has the arching, the arches that connect it down to, what is that, 200, yeah. 190. You see that as a potentially heavily trafficked area, or you're just anticipating potentially some kind of development that would drive up traffic on this stretch? Is that what you're trying to guard against?
The latter part of your narrative there is where we're at. It will depend greatly on the development. If it stays as it is, that section would never be built. If it is redeveloped, which we see often, and a major type of urban commercial development goes in there, I'll just throw some ideas out, Walmarts, strip malls, things like that, the traffic could be significant.
Okay. And this area is served by Johnson County Wastewater, or will be served by Johnson County Wastewater?
Hard to say.
Septic.
That would be interesting.
Septic systems in this area.
Okay.
If I recall right.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a couple.
Ms. Klicka.
Are we going to hear from the...
If this is a public hearing, the next step is to hear from the applicant and anybody else.
I'll yield to him, to Commissioner, and then I'll make comment.
All right. Thank you.
Now, Brian, I do have a question. I'm sorry. Thank you, Brian. Was there any discussion between you and the participants or the requesters regarding payment for land, this land? Would this be free land that they're asking for? Or I know when we acquire right-of-ways, it costs us money. In a sense, we're giving away free land. Is that their request?
That's exactly the request, to vacate that, and that we would decide we do not have a use for it.
Okay.
Okay. A follow-on, then, that's a good question, Commissioner. So will they then be paying taxes on it if it's vacated?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Is the applicant present? Any comments they would like to make?
My name's Darrell Dugan. I live at 7280 West 198th Street, Stillwell, Kansas. Actually, I live on the corner there where the red line begins on the section that we want to vacate, on the opposite corner there, where Johnson and 198th Street intersect. When I bought that tract of ground and multiple tracts of ground there in 2006, as I've indicated to some of the information I've sent to the commissioners, 198th Street was a dirt road, 2006. I called Mac Andrew at the time and I asked Mac, I said, Mac, I want to talk to you about 198th Street in Johnson. And he immediately told me, he says, we're not going to pave it. And I said, Mac, I don't want you to pave it, but would you at least mow it? Because it was not accessible. In the course of finding out I want to build a house there, I find out that there's no water line there. So I expended about almost $30,000 to extend a 6-inch water main across 198th Street, which turns and goes up north on Johnson. I didn't make it a benefit district, which would require all the rest of the landowners that ever purchased any ground there to return my money. I said, no, I've been here 60 plus years. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for the community. I sold a lot across the street to my son, who built a new home there in 2012, and in 2017 directly behind that. And if I had a way to point it out to you, I built a second home for my daughter and her husband. And directly south of that, where that red line for the vacated street is, there's a little ranch house there that in the spring of this last year, the renter there petitioned to have a conditional use permit to get a dog kennel approved there. Our local zoning board approved that dog kennel operation, and I went to the landowner at that point and I said, please sell me that home. I don't want a dog kennel there. Which they did. He sold it to me. I in turn sold it to the Fish family right here, who are remodeling that home. And directly south of that point, I've got another house staked that we're going to make application for to build a third house for one of my family members. We like the closeness. Our family moved to the area in 1867, so we're not going anywhere. But more importantly, when I made this petition, it came back to me from the county that the major contention to this was that the commercial development, this could inhibit that commercial development, which I found rather strange, because having been a member there and on all the various planning and zoning boards and in the area over the years, it's been brought to me by county planning staff that commercial development is not really desired out there. The question was raised a few minutes ago, will it be served by sewers? Yes, eventually it will. Not in my lifetime, but probably in the grandson that she's carrying of mine, they will be. Because as the crows fly, that area would have to be sewered from the west, and you're 9.7 miles northwest of that point with your closest sewer. Now the area of the 140 acres that was referenced on the other side of Metcalf, that would have to be sewered from the east. Your sewer line would have to continue on down Camp Branch Creek and come up through that area to sewer that, which is an additional 5 or 6 miles. But more importantly, I saw a slide here, and maybe I can ask some help here. There was original plat of this area. You got that plat? This is the original plat of the area. I believe it was filed in 1868. Is that correct? Yes. And in the briefing sheet supplied to me by the county, they demonstrated that this was platted and turned over to the county in 1868. And at this point in time, it is not improved, and there are no plans to improve it. It's 149 years, gentlemen. Are we to be held another 40 or 50 years when we're building nice homes right in this area because of increased commercial development that might occur around the area? I would hope that you'd see forward enough to see that we are developing this residentially. These houses are going to be there a long time. That probably wouldn't be a collective street. And if I had my druthers, I wish Mac would have never done a thing to my 198th Street, because the pavement only causes traffic and speeding traffic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there someone else? All right, if there's no one else to be heard, the public hearing is closed. The item is back before the commission. Mr. Klicka?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve and, to approve the petition to vacate 198th Street between Foster Street and Johnson Street in the town of Aubrey. And just for further clarification, I guess I yield to the planners here, that in a vacation of a street, the property basically divvies up to the adjacent property owners of that vacation, correct? And they will be paying the property taxes on that, correct?
Yes, Commissioner, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
And I don't know if I asked for an opposing motion on this, so I don't know if I gave the appropriate one. I didn't see the alternative motion here.
Well, I think that's appropriate. It's contained in Resolution 099-17 and speaks to the street location of the vacation. So
my motion, just for clarification, is to accept the petition.
To vacate.
Okay.
That is correct. All right, the motion has been made. It has been seconded. Any further questions or comments? Mr. Schaefer.
I'm going to agree with Commissioner Allen. I think there was some comment made speaking to the future. I think this particular vacation at this location speaks to the future in a more positive manner in case something does happen out there. We know it will probably be well into our future. I won't be around when that occurs, but again, that's what Johnson County is built on, future planning and future endeavors and future opportunities, and I think this particular vacation defeats that purpose. I'll vote no to that motion.
Okay. Well, I would simply say this. I appreciate the staff's position, understand it, but again, it seems to me there will be appropriate opportunities, at least based upon what we see today, for appropriate connections at Foster Street and Johnson Street for any future development in that particular area. So I will support the motion that's before us. Any further? All right. There being no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
No.
Commissioner Allen?
No.
Commissioner Klicka?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you all. We have one more item, and that is the one that we added to the agenda. Mr. Reinhardt.
Good morning, Chairman Eilert and Commissioners. I'm Brad Reinhardt with the Facilities Department. First of all, thank you for allowing this item to be added to today's agenda. We're requesting early approval for this contract for demolition of the structures on the block to the north of the new courthouse site. The driver for this early request is to secure property from unauthorized access as quickly as possible. Upon approval of this contract, construction fencing will be put in place quickly, and this fencing is in the scope of the demolition contract. To date, there have been a few minor incidents on the property involving minor vandalism with unauthorized individuals accessing the property, and so we believe it's prudent to secure the site as quickly as possible from unauthorized access. All except one of the 14 properties are owned by the county. The properties have been vacated and salvaged, and with regard to the invitation for bid, there were 12 responsive bids for this demolition work. And of those, Mid-America Roofing submitted the lowest cost bid, and their bid has been reviewed by our consultant who prepared the demolition drawings and the scope for this work, and they agreed to awarding it to Mid-America Roofing. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Okay.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one, Brad. It seems that there was, if I recall, a pretty good spread between the high and the low, and this is a bonded, they're posting a bond, performance bond as a part of this contract with the county. Is that accurate?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, Mr. Ashcraft?
Follow on to Commissioner Brown's question. Three of those firms are fairly close together in terms of cost. So it does look like a very good competitive process, but is there any difference in what services the three most competitive ones are serving? Do you see, I mean, all their references were equal or superior?
Yes, they have experience in performing this type of demolition work. I think many, if not most, of these bidders actually put in for the work the City of Olathe is doing on our courthouse site currently. So,
very good. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone present who would like to address the commission on this item? There's no one to be heard. The motion would be in order. Mr. Osterhaus.
Move that we approve the demolition contract as proposed by staff.
Second. Motion's made and seconded to approve the awarding of the contract to the low bidder for the demolition on Block 29. Any further questions or discussion? There being none, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickham?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Eilert?
Aye. Motion carried. Are there any other items?
No, sir.
All right, moving to reports and communications, Mr. Zacharias.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few items this morning, just all information for your purpose. First of all is the Johnson County Non-Residential Building Permit Report for October. It also talks about year-to-date investments, total about a 21% increase over this time last year. The amount of square footage, though, is a little bit decreased. The Consumer Confidence Report, however, is very strong and probably is one of the highest measures we've had in a long time. So good news from that perspective. Also, we have information from the City of Mission with regard to the redevelopment project plan. This is their fourth amendment to the project plan that really talks about the Gateway project and really kind of talks about how they plan to structure that potential development. Again, no response by you is required, but it gives you a sense that they're working hard to get that project to come to fruition. And probably most of important note is the major project updates. We have given you information about the 19 different projects going on over $1 million. I probably would direct your attention to the two that really have the highest dollar figure, one of which is the new courthouse, one of which is also the issues of Tomahawk plant, which are going on as scheduled. Generally, I think we're really pleased about how we're progressing in all those 19 projects, but I'll stop there, answer any questions you might have.
Questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to commissioners' comments. Mr. Brown?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would like to comment condolences to Jay Lipzig, our planning director, on the loss of his father. I dread the day that I'm in those shoes. I would like to offer congratulations to the new sheriff deputies who graduated from the academy on Friday night, December 1st, and attended the Johnson County Airport Commission board meeting this week. Things there are in good shape. The meeting on Wednesday morning proved that. Mr. Otto, his staff, and the entire board are doing an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Osterhaus.
I'd just like to say congratulations to the chairman who won the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Overland Park Chamber yesterday.
That was very nice, a surprise.
Yeah. Very nice things were said about him and his wife, Jan. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Allen?
No comments.
Mr. Ashcraft?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. For the last week, there's been a lot of energy surrounding certain decisions that we have made, and I'm reticent to get into the specifics of that, particularly on the advice from the county attorney who has cautioned us in terms of what we can and should or should not say, and I appreciate his advice. Several employees spoke, though, and those comments took a lot of courage, and they're very sincere and dedicated, and I appreciate that and respect that. I think the county manager and executive staff should be proud of them and how they comported themselves. This is a difficult conversation that we've been having. It's a stressful event, and they've expressed themselves well. Changing the culture through the HPO model or whatever other model is used has begun to take effect, and I commend staff for doing that. A couple of comments, though, related to some of us being fiscal conservatives, And I probably fit that model, although I don't consider myself a fiscal conservative as much as a fiscal hawk. I am very concerned about the value that we obtain and receive for the expenditures we have. And I think many, if not most all of my questions are geared towards that, but I can accept that label. The other one about being socially conservative, I'm not quite sure what the reference is, but one of the presenters asked that question. Mr. Chairman, I mean, I am pro-life. I would readily admit that. I'm proud of that. I'm not sure how that might affect my decision-makings on public works or planning items or anything else. But I know it's been difficult on all of us, and I just wanted to say I think county staff should be recognized for the courage they've had and the willingness to express themselves. And while we may disagree, I think they represent Johnson County well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clicken?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate Commissioner Ashcraft's comments, and I concur with those. And then moving on, also, I would like to extend my sympathy over to Jay and his family, as Monday, I believe, is the memorial service that he's got with his family as far as that goes. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schaefer?
Thank you. No one mentioned the function Monday and Tuesday. United Community Services had their open forum, public forum, Monday morning. A number of us attended, and then the next day, Tuesday, was their 50th anniversary lunch. So we want to thank you for all you've done for us and our community, and keep up the good work.
Well, I think you should probably also mention that Mr. Thompson
was
honored with a special
Thank you.
recognition at the luncheon.
That's right.
Congratulations, Maury.
Yeah, Maury.
Actually, I was just noting the good work of many others there in our mental health department and our law enforcement community here in Johnson County. So well-deserved recognition for all of those involved.
Right, right. The co-responder program was well represented, well recognized. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Maury. A round of applause for Maury, yeah.
I just have one item. I think several of us perhaps will be attending on December 12th the annual Kansas Legislative Forecast Breakfast program, which is generally sponsored by Lathrop and Gage, and I think is being held at the Doubletree Hotel. So just for informational purposes, we do have a request for an executive session. We have agenda review for both our regular agenda and the Public Building Commission. And we are at the noon hour, so why don't we try to begin that executive session at 12:30 p.m. for a period of 20 minutes, or 15 minutes.
I would move that the board recess and open meetings and convene in an executive session at approximately 12:30 p.m. for a period of 15 minutes for the purpose of discussing personal matters of non-elected officials to protect the privacy of employees, and to reconvene an open session in this room at approximately 12:45 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the executive session may end.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the request for executive session. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickham?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Eilert?
Aye. Motion carried. That concludes our regular agenda. We'll take a very short break and come back for agenda review. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
discuss whether we need to go back. The record will reflect that approximately a few minutes after 1 p.m., we reconvened into open session. The motion is in order. Mr. Klicka.
I move to appoint Ms. Penny Postoke Ferguson as interim county manager effective January 1st and authorize the chairman to initiate contract negotiations with her.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to enter negotiations with Penny Postoke Ferguson as the interim city manager effective January 1, 2018. Pardon? County manager. I did this twice at the city, so as county manager. Any further discussions? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen? Commissioner Klicka?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. That concludes our agenda. We are adjourned. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.